Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be I don't know, maybe just talking about the new documentary series or whatever it's called, about the little boy Gabriel Fernandez. The only reason why I want to really talk about this documentary series is basically because it kind of touches, I don't know. I have a lot to say about it, and also I can relate a little bit, not in the way that like the physical abuse or stuff like that, not like that. I mean, in dealing with the Department of Children's Services, I've had a lot of experience with them. Not very pleasant, because they are not pleasant people. For if you watch this series, they go in depth about these workers, not specifically just the workers that were in charge of his case, but workers in general, the system of the children's services. I know that some people might say, I was in the system and it did good for me. It might have, yeah. But what I've seen a lot, even growing up, I've never heard good things about the Children's Service Department. Watching this documentary, I've seen the story of this little boy a couple years ago on YouTube. Because I like watching a lot of crime shows and stuff like that, and once you click on a video, then it just starts suggesting all these different videos, right? Kind of similar to what you're watching. So I clicked on it because at the time, I believe I was living in Palmdale. So I had seen that this was in Palmdale. So it caught my attention, little boy, Palmdale, dead, So I was like, oh no. No. I'm not going to take him to this school, thinking it's something from a school or a shooting or something. And so I remember clicking on it and I seen it. Oh my God, it freaking traumatized me. But the thing that, I kind of relate to now was because watching this, they give you more information. They tell you the behind the scenes of what happened, what really happened throughout the investigation from that month, that span those couple months that he was with his mom and her boyfriend. That was like an open case, So if you don't know how the Department of Children's Services works, so if someone calls the Department of Children's Services saying, oh, I think a kid is being sexually abused or physically abused or anything, or this kid isn't getting fed, or this kid doesn't look okay, something's going on, anyone can call. You can call and try to get someone help, obviously a child or children. So that's basically how that works. So then when that happens, a social worker will come to your house and interview your children, interview anyone that lives in the home that your children are living in. And then they'll kind of take a look around your house, see if there's food in the fridge, see if they have clothes, if they have shoes, if the kids look well taken care of. And social worker will come interview you, interview your kids. She'll decide whether or not like if the call that was made is true or false, whatever, she'll tell you, oh, okay, cool, case closed. So, the reason why I say I can relate also is because not so long ago, I had the Department of Children's Services called on me because it wasn't a neighbor, it wasn't anyone living next to me or anything like that. It was someone at school. I don't know if it was a teacher or if it was just someone that didn't like my mom, because this was the time that Ashira was living with my mom. And my mom, a lot of people didn't like her at school. I could just say that. And, you know, all they saw was my mom and Ashira all the time at school. And nobody knew I was her mom because I wouldn't pick her up and I wouldn't take her to school. So it was a Sunday, I remember. I was at home and I was going to work. At this point, I'm a single mom taking care of my kids, and I can only work nights because my grandmother, I was living with my grandmother at the time, and I would pay her to watch my kids. So on a Sunday night, I remember Ashira would stay with me here and there sometimes on the weekends. And so I remember leaving the house on Sunday night. I think it was like 7 p.m. and I left my house and I go to work. Everything's fine. My mom picks up Ashira on Sunday night. I get a call. She goes to school on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I believe my mom called me and told me that there was cops at their house, and she was like freaking out. She was like, come get your daughter, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna get me in trouble. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, what's going on, you know? And so it turns out that Ashira had a bruise on her arm right here. It wasn't big or anything like that. Whoever was at school saw the bruise, and I guess my mom took Ashira with like a short sleeve because, you know, kids get bruises all the time. They're always running around, jumping off things and rolling around, kicking each other, pulling each other, you know, like it's normal. And so they asked Ashira questions, and at this time she was also going to gymnastics. She was going, I think, maybe 2 times a week or something like that. And so they asked her, like, why do you have a bruise? She's got plenty of bruises on her legs, so why didn't they say anything about her legs? Like, it's so ridiculous. So she said, I don't know, like, maybe I got it at gymnastics, you know? Like, she just, like, you know, if someone would have beat her, she would have been like, oh, I got hit, you know? So I don't remember the exact days and time and everything, but I remember, I think it was the next day, I was scared because I was like, what the hell? So I wanted to spend time with her the next day and just kind of figure out what was going on. And so I pick her up from school and I'm out with her, and I'm with my sister and her wife, and we go out to like an open swap meet. Like, it's just like a swap meet outside. And I remember a social worker that I've never met. I didn't even know anything was happening. A social worker called me and she was like, so yeah, I came to your house and you're not here, so I was wondering if you and I can talk and, you know, just figure out what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, like totally cooperating. But at this point I'm like scared because who wouldn't be? You know, your children, not just children are on the line, you know? Like, it's just a scary feeling, you know, because I've heard and I've seen many things happen before with the Department of Children's Services. You know, anyways, let's get back to the story. So she's like, you need to take Ashira back to your mom's house because I will be picking her up and I will be taking her to Palmdale and with their dad. And at this point I was like, what the heck, you know? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, what about my other kids? I have to pick them up at 4:30. And she was like, oh no. She's like, I already interviewed them at their school and I already talked to them, and yeah, they're gonna be picked up by their grandma, which is his mom, their dad's mom, and she's gonna take them to Palmdale. Without telling me anything that was going on with my kids, she just decided, you know, she was gonna take them. And so I was like so confused, because it went from a cop just interviewing my daughter and my parents to this. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like, they didn't even talk to me, they didn't interview me, they didn't do anything. What she was doing, this worker was doing in that time frame from when the cop interviewed her and my parents, she was going through my background, like checking all these things about me, where I've worked, if I've gone to jail, which I had gone to jail already, but that was years ago before. And just gone through my background. And then so I get home, my sister drops me off, and I have to say bye to Ashira. So I kind of hug her and I start crying. And you know, it's hard because she's like, yeah, we're gonna take them away because they need to go with their dad while we investigate you. So I come home and I talk to her, and she's just being really nice. My grandma was being very nice too. You know, my grandparents only speak Spanish, so they were just kind of in the background. And I was kind of embarrassed because, you know, they're my grandparents. Like, this is their house. It looks like I did something wrong, you know? So she starts asking me like, oh, so do you hit your kids, and do you do this, and where do you work, blah blah blah, being so fake and nice. So she starts asking me questions, and I break down because at this point I'm scared. Like, I just don't know what's gonna happen. And I end up telling her while I'm crying, I'm a single mom. Like, I have to work really hard to take my kids to school. Like, I work very hard. You know, I work at nights, and I have to do all these things on my own because I don't have any help by the person that you're letting my kids go with. And so she was just like, okay, well, just trying to make me admit something that I didn't do. Was like, if you beat your kids or you hit your kids, we will find out, and your kids will tell us, actually, we already went to your two kids' schools. I didn't know that. And she was like, we already went to their school and interviewed them. So if what you're saying doesn't match what they're saying, then you can get in a lot of trouble. Like, trying to scare me. Bitch, like, ask them whatever you want. Go ahead. Doesn't matter. They're not gonna say, oh, I beat them, because I don't beat my kids, you know? That was about it. But she just was trying to be really nice, acting like she was nice and cool and friendly with me, and that everything was gonna be okay. So she left. And this was like some young girl too. She left, and then I called their dad, and I asked him, like, what's going on? And he's like, well, this lady just wants to talk to me. She says, I'm going to keep the kids while you're under investigation, and blah, 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 blah. We both are like, we don't know what's going on. And, you know, thankfully, he knows that, you know, I'm not a bad mom or anything like that, and that I wouldn't do anything like that to the kids. Plus, he would have seen something, you know, or like he would have seen signs of me abusing the kids, because they'd go with his parents every other weekend, and he lived there at the time. So, you know, and his mom works for the police station, and his dad works at a juvenile detention center. So, you know, at some point, you know, you would see signs of kids being neglected or abused, or, you know, you could see it, and they're not dumb. You know, so the kids get taken over there with him. Later on that day, he calls me and tells me, I don't know what's gonna happen. He's like, honestly, like, I just told them, like, you're a good mom, you've been taking care of them. Telling him, he told me, like, I told her the truth, you know? And he's like, she told me, we're gonna bring her down and we're gonna take the kids away and we're gonna give them to you, you know? And she was just like, I guess she told him that she had seen that I had gone to jail and that it was domestic violence. And because the reason why I went to jail was because he ended up with a scratch here as I'm trying to defend myself, like this. And because I didn't have any physical damage or whatever on my body, I was the one abusing him. So whatever. So that gave her an excuse to go on that. So I guess, you know, she was doing her job, but I feel like she was doing the wrong job, you know? Like in the story of this little boy where he was being, their case was being under investigation for, I think it was 6 or 8 months that he lived with his mom and the boyfriend. And in those months, he was still with his, the people that were being investigated, you know, as of, you know, I'm here and I'm taking my kids to school and I'm doing a good job, you know. So I was terribly, horribly scared because after he told me that, I was like, she can do anything to try to make me look bad, you know. And my mom would always tell me, like, don't be scared. My grandma would always tell me, like, don't be scared because, you know, they're up to date on their vaccinations. Whenever they get sick, you take them to the doctor. The doctor always says the weight is good, everything's good, you know. And at this time that I was being investigated, I had to sign papers to give custody to him temporarily while he had them. And they were missing school this whole time and pissed me off. This time that this whole investigation thing was going on, I was staying with Wes and I was in his apartment. And I remember, because he had to go to work at night, I remember feeling every day like I couldn't breathe. Like it felt like when you have no control over something, that's how it felt. And I remember just being like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Like, what if they take them away? And it's like, for me, my kids are like my little best friends, you know? And I remember like calling them all the time. Even, I don't think I even was supposed to talk to them, because some people will call their kids or will get in contact with their kids and be like, don't say this or don't say that, you know? And I remember, you know, them thinking it was like a little vacation from school and stuff. And like what upsets me also was that the social worker was doing an investigation on me, but she gave them to their dad, where, like, you know, he could have been, I don't know, a fucking gang member or anything, you know. She didn't investigate his background, nothing. And no one in the house. At the time, his parents had 2 people under investigation too with the children's services, had their 2 daughters taken away from them because of some things that, you know, it's none of my business to speak on. And they were there and they were interviewed too, and they had my kids there. Like, how does that even make sense? Like, I don't understand, you know? Remember being so scared, I took off like a lot of my posts from Instagram. I had done like a photo shoot and I had a Modelo beer, and I remember I took it off and I was like, no. And Wes was like, why? And I'm like, because they'll check everything. If she's investigating my background, she's gonna go looking for everything under my name, you know? And man, it was the hardest thing ever. And I think that the system fails. It fails. And if you guys watch the documentary, even people that have worked as social workers say, they say in the documentary, like, it's it's not, they don't go by the rules. A lot of thing is about money. And every child to them is money. They, like what happened in the documentary. The, you know, they try to basically, you know, make it seem like they did nothing wrong. Like the social workers did nothing wrong when they were the ones that I feel more so than anyone killed that little boy, because they could have done something for sure. For you to see this little boy and see him with no teeth at 8 years old, no teeth, fat lips, marks all over his head, you know, like how do you just let that pass? Like how what I really was like, oh my God, about this documentary was when the security guard was like, yeah, I guess the mom, Gabriel's mom, and his siblings and himself and the little boy himself, they were walking into the welfare office, and they're walking past the security because they have to get scanned and everything, and he's passing, and I guess the security says that he like lifted his hand to touch his hair or something, or his head or something, and he had marks on his arm, and his face just looked horrible, and his skin looked horrible. And the security guard was like, the little boy didn't even have to say anything. He didn't have to say one word. His body was screaming, help me. That part me up. I was like, wow. He saw this little boy, you know, asked for help, and they turned him down and said, don't get involved. Like, that's ridiculous to me. And I think that just shows how messed up this is. And I wanted to share my story because I feel like a lot of parents are so naive to these things, and they don't really think it will ever happen to them. And maybe it won't happen to you, but things happen, you know. Even when you go to the hospital, your kid has a burn, your kid has a broken arm, your kid has a busted lip, a busted head, you will get freaking interrogated. Why did your kid fall? Were you not watching him? Were you neglecting your child? Why did he bust his lip? Did you bust it? Did you physically hurt your child? Like, that's what they do when you go to a hospital. And so my story, how this all ended was, so I guess, you know, their dad called me, and he told me, he wasn't supposed to tell me any of these things at all, but he did, because he knew I was like, I was having mental breakdowns. Like every day I was calling him, telling him like, oh my God, like, what do we do? What did they say? Did they call you? Blah, blah. You know, because they weren't calling me, they were calling him, and asking him for any evidence that I might be a bad mom so we can take the kids away. And so, like, if interviewing the kids without me wasn't like enough, you know, it was so embarrassing that they went to my kids' schools and interviewed them. Like, that's embarrassing, because then I still had to take my kids to the same school after. So fucking embarrassing, you know. Anyways, so how this all ended was that, so he told me, he's like, this is the last step that they said they're gonna take. We're gonna take them to, I think maybe the Department of Children's Services or the police station or somewhere like that. This is how I didn't even know anything. I didn't know what was going on. He was like, I don't really know where I'm supposed to take them, but I'm taking them to a hospital also so they can check their bodies for any injuries. And they checked their bodies, they interviewed them one by one. And it's funny because Ashura was just like, I mean, I go to gymnastics, like that's what I do. And then me and my brother and sisters were always like, you know, playing around. And does your mommy hit you? No. All of them said no. you know? And no one told them to say anything. They didn't even know what was going on. We didn't tell them. I recently just told them, maybe like 2 or a week ago, you know, about what happened, because you just have to, I don't know, I had a conversation with them and they brought something up and they brought all these things up, so they know about it. So I remember that him telling me, I was like, so what happened? What did they do? And they're like, nothing. They just took pictures of their bodies. Like, they have regular bruises, like kids would have bruises, you know? They're not like bodily damaging whatever, you know? They're not like bad bruises or anything like that. And all the kids said that, you know, they come over here and they go over there with you, and then, you know, that's it. You know, she lives with her grandma. Her grandma doesn't hit her either, nothing like that. And so I don't remember how long it was that they had them. I think it was maybe like 2 weeks or a week while they were investigating. And so I finally get a call from the social worker. I remember I was at home and she was like, hi, she's like, so I'm just letting you know that we will be returning the kids to you by Friday or something like that. And she was like, yeah, and this part. This part. She apologized. I would have been like that. But no. Would have got my Louis on. If I would have seen her. Ugh. Not for real though. But she calls me and apologizes to me personally. She was like, I just want to say that I'm sorry if anything that I said might have hurt you, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. So I could not believe that she apologized. She was wrong. She was totally wrong for doing that to me. You know, I'm putting my kids through that. You know, I went through fucking hell those days, just thinking like, what if they take him away? I could have gone to jail, but that's not what I was thinking, you know? That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking like, oh my God, what if they take them? And, you know, like, I'm never gonna see them. Like, what? You know? So when I got them back, they came back and everything. And of course, happiest moment of my life, because, you know, these are my little people. They're mine. And so watching this documentary, kind of reliving everything, watching it kind of made me relive everything that I went through with that same system. And I feel like a lot of parents should know that you have to be very careful with your kids, you know, be very cautious. I'm not saying live a very scared life, but I do, regardless of any, like, everything. I don't hit my kids. I don't do anything like that, you know. I might curse. I curse all the time. I'm like, yeah, get your ass over here, motherfucker. Like, vaya sus pinches nalgas pa acá. You know, like that. But I'm not gonna be like fucking beating them or anything like that, you know. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't have no reason to live in fear because I don't do anything to my kids. But I'm in constant fear of, you know, because I'm traumatized. The situation is traumatizing, and if you've been through a situation like this, you know that it's scary. And it's scary. I live in constant fear, even though I shouldn't. But it's just something that just lives in me. Like, it's just like that. I'm you know, I'm very careful with my kids. Even when they go to school, if they mention a random person that I've never heard of. I'm like, who are they? What did they do? Was there other kids? Where was this? What happened? Like, you know? And my kids are like, it's a teacher, and yeah, there was other kids, and this is what happened, and it's totally normal, and it's normal, you know? But for me, I'm just like that. I'm traumatized about past experiences, and it's just scary, you know? So yeah, I think everyone should watch this documentary. As hard as it is to watch it, I think people should be informed. People should know about these things and how you can prepare yourself if anything like this ever happened to you, you know, or if you hear, or if you see a kid, a child, a teenager, a toddler, a newborn, anything being abused, or you hear, you see it physically, you know, call for help, you know, because some people really do need it. Be insistent of help, like, you know. Also in this documentary, it's like, if they're doing these things to this boy, he lives in an apartment complex. Where are the neighbors that are over here on the news being like, oh, poor little boy? And it's like, why didn't you say something when you heard him screaming for his life when he was getting shot by a BB gun in his groin? This little boy was getting shot with a BB gun. In the autopsy, which I knew about after, you know, watching this documentary. When I watched the YouTube videos, they never mentioned anything about an autopsy. And they found a BB gun buried in his groin. And I know that those can, you know, once you shoot it or something, it goes into your skin. Like, it can, because I know Wes has one in his arm that he got shot with, like, when he was a little kid, or when he was younger, and he has one stuck in his arm. And I think this little boy has like 2 in his chest or something like that, and 1 in his groin when they did the autopsy. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? You know, I don't know how to really explain it, but when I hear things about kids and kids getting abused or stuff like that, it just makes me, I can't stop thinking about it, you know? When I was younger, I went to help at a homeless shelter, and I didn't know that I think I was around 12. I went to this homeless, I may be younger, I don't remember, but I didn't know, and I don't think my mom knew, that it was going to be a shelter for women and children. It was so sad to see all these little kids. They looked dirty. They looked sad. Of course they're going to be sad. They don't have a home. But, you know, it's just like, how does the system fail these people? And how do you just leave women and children like homeless? Like, I understand that you have these kids and they're your responsibility. And if you're going to have kids, you should be able to take care of them. But, you know, life happens. Shit happens, you know? I've been in this situation, you know, when I was pregnant with Levi, and I had just had Ashira. I was bouncing from hotel to hotel because of a certain person, and I didn't have anywhere to go. Literally was homeless, you know, and I don't tell anyone that, but yeah, in the worst situation possible. I wasn't pregnant with Levi. I had Levi. He was a newborn, and I was bouncing from hotel to hotel and stuff like that. It could be another story time if you guys want to know about what happened there. So yeah, I feel like, I know that I say the system doesn't work, but I feel like nobody was really insistent So do something about it, honestly. You know, you could save someone's life. You know, who knows? The mom's getting abused too, or the dad, or, you know, anyone in the house. You know, it's not only kids, it's everyone. Like, it could be mom, dad. I know, I've been in that situation. So, you know, a lot of people are just scared. But I feel like if you see something, or you see a kid on the street at the store and you think that kid doesn't look okay, you know, I get it. Some kids might be sick and they just don't look okay. I get it. But there's a difference. So I think everyone should watch the documentary. I suggest that you do. And get informed. Trust, but don't trust the system. It's complicated, but that's how a lot of relationships are. So thanks for watching my little story time / my thoughts on this Gabriel Fernandez series documentary. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the video. I would like some feedback. I don't know, you know. See you guys in the next video.